We have a very special guest joining us on the program today, somebody who arguably knows the most about this case. He is an award-winning journalist and the host and co-creator of the Up and Vanished podcast. You know him and love him. Payne Lindsey back in the studio today. Thank you so much for being here. Great to have you back. We all loved hanging out with you at CrimeCon.
It was a blast.
Oh my gosh, and all the interest in this case. I mean, I knew there was national attention by and large because of your podcast, because of Up and Vanished, but then seeing it firsthand, the hundreds of people that came out to hear you speak about this case, it's mind-blowing, Payne.
It's wild just seeing how many people have just latched onto this story and really, really feel it, and have been a part of this for years now and feel like an attachment to Tara.
It's a journey. I mean, and trying to get justice for her, which still hasn't happened. It's still a mystery. And I mean, and with the not guilty verdict, having had multiple conversations with you, I would think you weren't surprised by this, were you?
I unfortunately was not surprised.
Tell us why.
I mean, my thoughts are, I'm just very disappointed. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I thought that in the 5 years since Ryan Duke's arrest, maybe, just maybe, fingers crossed, they had some supporting evidence for their theory, but they had nothing, and that's why there's a not guilty verdict.
And even with, I'm glad you used the word theory, Payne, because you know how we talk about that on court TV, where attorneys have to have their legal theory, meaning why they should win under the law. What happened that makes the jury able to decide in their favor. And here, watching it, the story was not clear to me. How she died, who killed her, the circumstances of it. I mean, all of it, where it happened, how it happened. I mean, I felt like after watching the trial, there were even more unanswered questions in my mind. How about for you?
I've thought a lot about this, obviously. And actually on the car ride here this morning, I was thinking about, just in hindsight, I think that what happened was when the podcast was out in 2016, it brought this story back into the spotlight and everyone was talking about it. And I think that when they got Ryan Duke confessing, instead of using their investigative skills and challenging a story that didn't make sense, they just ran with it. And I think that, maybe the pressure of the podcast impacted that, but they didn't do their job right. And instead of making his story make sense or even challenging it when he was confessing, the evidence has to match the confession.
Right.
And it's like they just overlooked that and omitted that. And here we are.
Right, and you're so smart, Payne. Under the law, you can't ever just prosecute someone on a confession alone. That's a no-no in every jurisdiction in America. And so, to your point, if you don't have the corroboration there in the way of evidence that's going to build the elements you have to prove under the law, how can you make out a case? And here I felt like this jury might have been left to their own devices to decide, well, how exactly was she killed? Was it strangulation? Was it a beating? What exactly was it that caused her death? And who all was involved in that part of it? Because here you have these two guys pointing the finger at each other, both accusing the other one of the same, and they both have lied. I mean, and they both have an interest in protecting themselves. And by the other guy, I mean Bo Dukes. Those who follow this know who I'm talking about. Yeah, I felt like the prosecution was really, really deficient. And you got a chance to be in the courtroom. For our viewers who were watching it live, you were there. You had your whole team from Tenderfoot and Up and Vanished. You guys had a big crew there and were watching along. What jumped out at you when you were physically in the courtroom and looking at the jury and watching everything go down? I
mean, the first thing I noticed was all the bad looks I was getting from law enforcement.
Wow.
Just seeing other grown adults kind of act like children towards me, it was a little bizarre. And, it's one thing to talk about it, but when you're experiencing it in person, it's already an intense moment for anyone in there. Tara's family's in there, the community's in there. It's just, it's a shame that they have so much pride in what they've done and they still drop the ball. And they've never taken ownership for it.
Right. No, and I'm going to ask you more about that. We have to take a break, but a little teaser. Payne was put under subpoena. for this case. There's quite a story behind this. I have a theory as to why, and I'll share it when we come back. Also, we're going to share with you more of those victim impact statements that were given to the court in the Beauty Queen murder trial. This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice.
2 bottoms for $24.
Did you know Tara Grinstead?
I did.
How did you know Tara Grinstead?
She grew up down the street from me, and we went to elementary, middle, and high school together, and college.
Okay. Did you have something you wish to address to the court as it relates to sentencing?
I do.
Okay. You can go ahead and let the court know what that is.
Okay. There is no appropriate punishment for what Mr. Duke has taken from us. The pure evil acts you have done cannot be undone or forgotten. You have taken from this world one of the brightest souls ever to walk the face of the earth. Tara was one of the sweetest, most loyal, loving people to have ever existed on this planet. She is missed by all that ever had the pleasure of meeting her. Her smile could light up the whole world, and her laugh, that snorting laugh, was absolutely contagious. She loved with her whole heart and was my best friend and an added bonus member of my family growing up. She was loved by so many and will be missed every day because there is a huge void without her. I hope Mr. Duke lives the rest of his life begging God for forgiveness every day till your dying breath.
Would you like the court to know about sentencing in this case?
The absolute maximum.
That was one of Tara Grinstead's friends, Mary Ann Sully. She delivered a victim impact statement as well. Remember, this case goes back to 2005. So it's been many, many years that Tara Grinstead's family members and friends have been wanting to see justice for their loved one. And with that not guilty verdict for Ryan Duke, there's a big question around this case as to whether they will ever get that justice. Someone who became very well known in his quest for justice for Tara Grinstead is the host and creator of the Up and Vanish podcast, Payne Lindsey, and we're welcoming him back to Court TV today. He's back in the studio with me. Payne, you were sitting in the courtroom and got to see a lot of the action. And where we left off before the break, you were talking about the first thing that jumped out at you being some of the looks from people in the courtroom, law enforcement, perhaps even attorneys for the state, I'm not sure, but share some more with us, if you will, why you think they were giving you some looks.
I mean, they're just being childish, to be honest. I think that instead of looking in the mirror and focusing on their case, they were more concerned with, the podcast guy. And, I'm a journalist like anyone else is, and there's been dozens of stories about Tara's disappearance for the past decade. And for whatever reason, they seem overly obsessed with whatever I was doing. And I think even to their own detriment. If they had put that same amount of energy into their case, maybe there would be a guilty verdict. And it's a shame for Tara's family.
Right. No, it really is, because that's what this is about. I know that was the focus with your podcast. You guys were trying to get to the truth, to try to get some answers for this family. And 2005 is when it happened. And then remind us again, please, Payne, the year that you started digging into this was
2016.
That's it. Okay. Yeah. Right. And so, and then 2017, we saw Ryan Duke arrested, right? Mm-hmm. So we're talking, 5 years since his arrest, and then this case goes to trial. They've had a lot of time to sort through this, make sure they've got the right guy, make sure they've got the right evidence. And something I wanted to share with all of our Court TV viewers, I know they're going to find this fascinating. The state subpoenaed Payne to be a witness. Now, a couple things here. Okay, did anybody ever call you before you even got the subpoena? Did anybody from the state, police, attorneys, anybody ever reach out and ask you what you knew about this case?
No, not a soul.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a huge problem. I can share this, having been a prosecutor. When you're preparing your case, you're going to decide what witnesses you need to establish the elements for the crimes you're charging the defendant with. And so you're going to try to find anybody with information, and you're going to pre-interview them. And it's something you're not going to do it alone. As a prosecutor, you're going to do it with law enforcement. And the reason why, you never want to become a witness to your own case. So if I were the prosecutor, I would never just, call you myself, just in case there'd be something you would say to me that would need to be testified to later. If there was any contradiction, you would have law enforcement present as well, so that they can take on that role. So ideally, it should be two people talking to you, Payne, but you're saying nobody ever even reached out.
Not
so
at
it's
all.
like, you get this subpoena, and how did you get the subpoena to? This is a great story as well.
So actually, CrimeCon that we went to,
Yes.
which if you guys don't know, it's a crime convention. Those exist. And we were going there to speak about the Tara Grinstead case.
Right.
And right before takeoff, Beth, your producer here, texted me a picture of a subpoena with my name on it. And they had my wrong address on it. It's like an address from 5-6 years ago, which I don't even know how they got that. And I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. And so the whole time there, instead of having a chill flight, I was on the Wi-Fi, texting my attorney, trying to figure it out. And my hunch in the very beginning was that they're just messing with me. They want to keep me out of the courtroom. What do they think I know that's going to help them? And if they did, why are they just now doing it? And why haven't they talked to me at all?
Bingo.
So.
Bingo. Right. And our Court TV viewers know this. And by the way, Beth Hemphill, she is our head of Court TV Digital. She's amazing. And if you're on Instagram Live now as well, she's actually running an IG Live. She's incredible. She knows Payne very well and knows this story incredibly well. And so the fact that that was even how you learned about it, they didn't even have good service on you. They didn't even serve you properly. You got a heads up just through our team, because we've all loved working with your team at Tenderfoot and collaborating for this case. And we hope to collaborate a lot more in the future. The thing with putting somebody under subpoena, then they become subject to the rule of sequestration. And we've talked about this on Court TV, where when you're a witness, you've got to be out of the courtroom. And so you had an attorney, very wisely, who was thinking, uh-oh, this looks more like a First Amendment violation than it does actually wanting my client to offer vital information to the case. This looks like you prosecutors just don't want him in the courtroom seeing what's going on and broadcasting, because you all did the Trial of Ryan Duke podcast, which was, kind of like the second part of, the up and vanished Grinstead case. And so your attorney then, what did he do, Payne? He filed a motion with the court?
So yeah, I found out about the subpoena from your producer, and then I had my attorney kind of reach out to the state to figure out what was going on, to see if I was, could be properly served, or we could figure out dates for this thing. And then a few days later, they emailed my attorney and said, remind Mr. Lindsey that he cannot even watch this trial. And I was like, okay, bingo, there you go.
Boom.
They don't want me in the courtroom. They don't want the podcast covering this. This has nothing to do with, me as a true witness.
Right.
They just are being spiteful, and that's ridiculous. And thankfully, we had a few hours of the day left, and we had till 5 p.m. Eastern time to get something filed in the courtroom, and we did. And I was able to be there. The
judge agreed. First Amendment violation. Can't do it. As a journalist, you have that protection. And your listeners wanted to hear how you're seeing the trial from your perspective as somebody who knows the case like, the back of his hand, and then seeing what's coming out in the court of law as compared to what you found out when you were digging around in Ocilla all those years ago was really, really critical. So that was fascinating to hear about, and, and I'm glad the court made the right decision on that. Payne Lindsey, so great to have you. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. When we come back, we're going to share with you another one of those very heartbreaking victim impact statements. A close friend of Tara Grinstead's just doesn't hold anything back as she tells the judge just how deeply Tara's absence has affected her.
PrettyLitter.com.
Thanks for being with us here on Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. So we've been watching the murder trial of Ryan Duke play out as our Court TV cameras did capture it actually a couple of weeks ago. It was during the Depp Heard case. This trial's so good we had to broadcast it here and now for you again. The sentencing hearing for Ryan Duke saw a number of family and friends of Tara Grinstead taking the witness stand in an effort to try to get some justice. After 17 years have passed since she disappeared. The next witness the court heard from was Tara Grinstead's sister-in-law. She made an impassioned plea to the judge in which she described Ryan Duke as evil and demanded he receive the maximum sentence.
Over the course of the last 3 weeks, reliving this heinous act that Ryan Alexander Duke committed has ripped open those wounds and doused him with acid. The damage that was caused to Tara's family by his criminal acts can never be undone. The best we can hope for is to one day make peace with the emptiness that was once filled with Tara. She is no longer walking in an earthly body, but in a heavenly body, hand in hand with our mother, Faye Grinstead. Ryan may have desecrated her physical body to nothing but ashes, but he did not erase her memories from our mind, her voice from our ears, and her love from our hearts. Edmund Burke said, "There is no safety for honest men, but to believe all evil of evil men. Evil men do not always snarl. Some smile charmingly. Those are the most dangerous." Ryan Duke is that kind of evil. He is an introvert. Bo Duke's an extrovert. Ryan is sneaky dangerous. Bo more open about the danger he exudes. Evil comes in all shapes and sizes. The vile human that is the defendant sitting at the table in the front of the courtroom is a perfect and prime example. His statue is rather small, but the demons in him are huge. Ryan's actions were so repulsively extreme that Tara's mere existence was reduced to less than 10 phony, fragmented pieces. Our family has no body to bury. We have no gravesite in which to establish a headstone. We have no urn where we can place seasonal flowers to honor and remember her. While showcasing her personal and private life in this very courtroom over the last 3 weeks and all over the live streaming media stations, the defense attorneys did not want Tara's excellent character to be mentioned. I was in a Zoom meeting and heard one of Ryan's counsel, who also requested that teacher and beauty queen be omitted. They had no problem calling witnesses to the stand to talk about what a good guy Ryan was. I cannot even begin to speculate concerning the dollar amount spent by the city of Osceola and the county of Irwin during the first few years after Tara vanished. Within just the first few weeks, there were helicopters in the air. Canine units from all over the southeastern United States were here in Osceola on the ground searching. Giant billboards were erected in Osceola, Fitzgerald, and on I-75 in Tifton. A command center was set up at the Irwin County Senior Center. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, including law enforcement, first responders, civil defense, teachers, friends, family trekked through revolting terrain looking for Tara, while Ryan Duke smugly sat in his home in Fitzgerald, knowing these extensive and costly searches would be in vain. Ryan Duke has been in jail for 5 years at the Irwin County Detention Center. Personally, I have lived in a prison of hell for almost 17 years. To be more specific, 6,053 days. 6,053 days, Ryan Duke. The maximum he can serve on the charge of concealing a death is 10 years. That's only 7 years less than the sentence that I and the rest of Tara's family and friends have experienced due to his revolting and villainous action. Ryan may have acquitted on several charges, but does that make him innocent? Absolutely not. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Judge Reinhardt, I want to voice my sincere gratitude for the court allowing me this opportunity of expression. Speaking on behalf of so many who loved Tara, it is our feeling that the legal system failed my sister. If the legal system did indeed fail Tara, I implore you, Your Honor, not to let the justice system do the same. Tara deserves and needs justice for the crimes that were committed against her. I respectfully ask this court that they give Ryan Alexander Duke for the crime concealing a death of another the maximum penalty as required by law.
Tara Grinstead's family deserves justice, no doubt about that. And you have to wonder what they're left thinking at the conclusion of this case. Let me bring in our special guest on the program now, Payne Lindsey, the host and co-creator of the Up and Vanished podcast. It's what put the Grinstead case really on the map in the true crime world. And there are listeners of your podcast all over the country, all over the world. I got to see many of them firsthand at CrimeCon when I was there with you and was honored to moderate your panel. And I'm sure many of them, are left shaking their heads after this. And many of them who really are in the know aren't surprised by this verdict, right? I mean, it might be shocking to some who don't know the case, but when you think about as much as, your podcast put out there in terms of information, this wasn't all that shocking. How do you think the family is feeling at this point, knowing going in, the case wasn't all that strong?
I would just assume that they're very disappointed in the result here. And, I don't know if they point blame at any particular person, but I would imagine that they're upset there isn't someone spending life in prison for Tara's murder. And, that would be upsetting.
Mm-hmm. Just awful. And a lot of people have been asking, we've got some great questions on IG Live about whether or not Bo Dukes is going to be charged with her murder. That is a great question, and I wish I had the answer to that. It's going to be up to that prosecutor's office to see if they want to rethink their legal theory. They could rethink things at this point. They could take what Ryan Duke has said during the trial and kind of redo the investigation, but there are no indications that they're going to do that.
They're not.
None, yeah.
No, they're too prideful to do that. That'd be admitting that they were wrong, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so this might be all we see in the way of an attempt for justice for Tara Grinstead. And of course, they feel strongly, the state feels very strongly that Ryan Duke is the one who did this, but the jury felt otherwise. You got to look at the jury when you were in the courtroom.
I did.
We're going to talk a little more about the jury and about the community and the reception that Payne got when he returned to Ocilla to watch this case play out. And we're going to show for all of you at home the final arguments those attorneys made to the court at the sentencing for Ryan Duke. We'll be right back.
but by Whisker.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. You know, despite a confession, Ryan Duke was recently acquitted of the murder of a South Georgia beauty queen. Duke was found guilty for the crime of concealing the body of the victim, Tara Grinstead. And before the judge gave him his sentence, the state further reiterated what many of Tara Grinstead's family and friends had requested of the court, which was to give him the maximum sentence allowed by law. The defense also had a chance to respond. Let's take a look back now at those final arguments.
Yes, Your Honor, we're asking the court to impose the maximum, in this case 10 years. I don't think I could say it any more eloquently than her family has said it. For nearly 12 years, from October 24th of 2005 until February of 2017, this family and this community searched for Tara. It's not just the money, but it's the pain of waking up each day and going to bed each night not knowing. That is a different kind of pain, having worked with this family, frankly, since 2010. I can tell the court that it is a different kind of pain that they suffered when they did not have any answers. And so for that reason, we're asking the court to impose the maximum of 10 years. Again, I can't put it any more eloquently than they can, that they're going to live with this the rest of their lives. But even based on just his actions, just what the jury has convicted him of, which is the concealing a death, they had nearly 12 years without answers, 12 years without knowing, 12 years of living in their version of a prison. And so we're asking the court to impose the maximum, which doesn't come close to what they suffered.
Thank you, Judge. Yes. Judge, the reason that we didn't present evidence is because during the trial, the court heard the evidence in this case and heard about Mr. Duke's good character, Ryan Duke's good character, and heard from members of the community, and also heard from the jury. And I think the jury verdict is one of the primary things that the court needs to consider in determining the appropriate sentence. A lot of the victim impact statements are focused on the charges that my client was found not guilty of. And I know that there's an argument about whether or not he should be held accountable for the murder of Miss Grinstead.
That's not what they found him guilty of.
And that's not what they found him guilty of. And beyond that, I think that it's important for the court to consider when determining a sentence, an appropriate sentence, that what the jury spoke and what the jury wants, and because that's the community. Because your role is to determine what the community wants, what the community wants as far as a sentence. That's one of the things that you have to consider, and what the appropriate punishment is. So Mr. Duke has been in custody since February 2017. The first, a little over a year, almost 2 years, he was on suicide watch. You heard testimony about that. He was in conditions that required him to be completely isolated. He has had absolutely no infractions. You've got a letter from the warden that says he's had absolutely no infractions, essentially a good conduct letter, that specifically says his good demeanor and presentation are notable. He was a model prisoner. He has been there for over 5 years in custody. He has waited patiently for his day in court, waited patiently for his exoneration by the jury of the charges the state has rendered against him. He went through 3 appeals. He sat patiently through 3 appeals. He sat patiently through COVID. He himself was willing to waive his right to a speedy trial in order to not have the jurors be subject to coming here during COVID. He sat patiently during that time for his truth to be told. And your consideration for sentencing is him as a person and the role that he was found guilty of. The role that he was found guilty of is moving Miss Grinstead's body with Bo Dukes. It is not for harming her. It is not for murdering her. It is for moving her body after Mr. Dukes had already murdered her. It is for that role. He is not the one that sat out there and burned her bones for a week. That is Bo Dukes. He is not being held responsible for that. And so the appropriate punishment is not for what Bo Dukes has done. It is for what Ryan Duke has done. And for remaining silent for all those years and for not coming forward. But he's told you why he remained silent. He has told the court, he has told the jury, and the jury believed him. The jury spoke and believed what he told them as to his reasons that he has remained silent for all these years. Judge, I'd just like to also put on the record and just let the court know that that depending upon the sentence, he is willing to accept responsibility for that, despite the fact that those charges happened in Ben Hill County, and you heard our argument about that. He's willing to waive any issues on that. He's willing to waive the continued, appeals on this and things like that, and take responsibility in exchange for an appropriate sentence.
And Judge, that would be an appropriate argument for the court to consider. That's something that we certainly could discuss with us, but it's completely inappropriate to argue that to the court.
Judge, but finally, just in summation, Ryan did not have to take the stand. He did. He spoke his truth. He spoke what happened in this case, and you could see true remorse. You could see that he is remorseful. He was remorseful this entire time. He suffered immensely from, and he's certainly not a victim, but his character is relevant for you to consider. He tried to commit suicide several times. He suffered from mental health issues. He suffered from drug and alcohol addiction, all of these things. And so I think that's important for you to consider as well as granting a sentence, Judge. And so he's been in a little over 5 years. The other thing that's important is that this would be considered under the 2005 sentencing guidelines. And as far as that, you're able to grant him first offender status. You're able to grant him first offender probation. So we would ask for a sentence that's along the lines of what the sentence that's appropriate in this case is what, essentially looking at the time that he would be serving. If you were to give him the maximum, the 10 years, practically speaking, he's eligible for parole, and he's already served twice what the parole guidelines state he would serve.
The parole board that's right.
Right.
They have their own rules, and
they do.
They can let him out anytime they want to.
Right, and so practically speaking, we all know as lawyers that, and the court knows that he's already served twice what that parole time would be. So if you give him a straight sentence, he will be essentially, he would be parole eligible immediately. If you gave him a split sentence, you actually would then be able to impose conditions on him because you would have him on probation, where it's different than if he's just paroled out and he's free to just walk out. So we would be asking that you give him a split sentence, 10 years to serve, well, he's already served 5 years, 5 years in custody, and then the balance on probation, and he'd be permitted to complete the First Offender Act.
All right, so those were the arguments before the court. Let me bring back in our special guest. Payne Lindsey is here in the studio today. Payne, tell us about the community reaction when you went back to Ocilla just a couple weeks ago to watch the trial play out and for your Up and Vanish team to do the broadcast of the trial of Ryan Duke. What was it like? What was the reception people gave you all?
To me, it seemed like everyone wanted this to be over. They wanted there to be an ending to this. This has plagued Ocilla for 17 years now, and people have searched for Tara for a long time. And to see it come to a close and for there to be a verdict, I think that everyone was just ready for that.
Just ready for it to be over and ready, to move forward. And sadly, it really hasn't come to a close. But I mean, I can't say I didn't expect this, and I know from talking to you and teammates, on your Up and Vanish team, like, if the jury, followed the facts, the law, which they clearly did, this was the result many of us expected they would arrive at.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a police officer, but they got to make their story make sense for the jury, and they didn't do that.
Yeah. If somebody asked you, everything depends on this, like, how do you think Tara Grinstead was killed? And do you think more than one person was involved in her killing? How would you answer that, Payne?
I've played so many different scenarios in my head for 5+ years now, to the point where I'm just lost myself. I have no doubt that Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes were involved in this, but I still don't understand how she died. And I don't understand how they ever met together. Whoever killed her, how did they get together that night? She left the barbecue at 11 p.m. Where did she go? Did someone go to her house? Did she go somewhere else? How did they come in contact with no cell phone record, no text? I don't know.
Right. The why, I think's missing as well. Would you agree? The motivation behind this. Why would anyone want to kill that beautiful young lady?
I think the state struggled with that. You know, I think it was hard for me to believe that Ryan Duke went over there to rob her.
Right, Payne.